would be street level crime, and eventually at the end of my career it would be international crime, it would be serious crime, it would be terrorism. So it's pretty important that you prevent terrorism before it's happening, rather than wait till you pick up literally the pieces afterwards. So when I left policing, I really couldn't understand why the animal welfare sector, crimes against animals, weren't being treated as seriously. We treat them differently. We treat one, violence against people, in one direction, and then generally crimes against animals we leave to charities, or in the US 501s, to deal with. Back in 1751, there was an artist in England who did engravings about the transition from harming animals to domestic homicide, and that's 270 years ago. So we've known about this such a long time. 200 odd years ago, people were still seeing this, and it's obvious, isn't it? If you're going to hurt a person, you're not going to walk in and be compassionate to an animal, are you? I mean, I say it's a hugely important thing that we need to protect, and not just dismiss it as sort of pink and fluffy and all very lovely. It should be at the mainstream of human welfare. Our animal welfare should be at the mainstream of making sure our families, our relationships, and our communities are safe and protected and healthy.
I know with my work, I've done about 800 interviews now with people from all over the world, and sometimes it's about economic development, sometimes it's about humane behavior, sometimes it's about responsible dog ownership. We've got public health, public safety. There are so many different facets to that, and I think people just think dogs are cute. End of story, right? And obviously with your work, you're seeing that there's a level of power to our love for animals, and the ability for people to exploit us because of that. So I think what I'm hearing from you is now it's time for us to realize it's so powerful that people can use it against us, but how do we harness that? Like, what are you seeing in your work in terms of partnering with
We
different
want to
people?
look after people, but actually, in terms of resource, we're always stretched for resource. If you're dealing with a homicide, it's incredibly expensive for the municipality, for the government, why don't we try and stop it by using what we know to be able to prevent that happening in the first place? That'd be in the sale of animals. People want people will want a dog, say dog particularly, really quickly, and therefore those that are trying to make money quickly will try and generate those puppies as fast as they possibly can, so that they make a cute looking puppy that will sell to people. They're not doing it because they want to provide a service. They're doing it because they want to make money. To this, really, I mean, there's the bad side and the good side of people, and I guess with the bad side, the one thing I've learned, I did a lot of international policing, and now I do a lot of international work within animal welfare. And no country, no area of a country is particularly different from any other. They all share the same crime problems. And if you share a crime problem, you're probably going to, the same solutions are going to be capable of being rolled out to be able to solve those problems. Yes.
Part of the work that I do is to try to get communities, leaders, whatever, business owners, associations to understand that if they triage what they're working on and understand that the prioritization of animal welfare, the way we treat them, the way that our society views that human animal bond, how that can affect things like economic development. And I think there's sort of a blind spot, I guess, in acknowledging that as important enough for them to allocate resources. And I see that in, economic development, retail development, entrepreneurialism, a lot of areas, because they have the cute factor of the pets being involved. Sometimes I think that it's sort of like, oh, and yes, we'll be nice to dogs, right? That'll be like our check that box, right? We're not cruel. We gave the dog a bone, so to speak. Are you seeing that there's an uptick in people saying, yeah, let's take a look at this. Let's recognize the fact that we have a huge opportunity to make a cultural shift that will benefit every living thing on the planet. If we would just understand that if we collaborate, to your point about working together on these things, sharing ideas, but at the end of the day, you need the judge on board. How does that happen? How do you get to the point? Have you seen task force development? Is it the right person at the right time? Is it just we just need time to get there? What's your take on sort of the evolution of where the resource level is right now compared to where it was and where it really needs to be to make this change actually happen?
Time, if we're dealing with a um, a welfare situation, we need to try and keep everybody together. That's the first one.
Or initiatives that you've seen leap forward that you look at those and go, this is something that people need to replicate because it's something that is so across the board beneficial, realistic, sustainable? Is there sort of a silver bullet on some level?
Every society, it's keeping the animals together as part of the family. You know, animals are our family. That's the first one. And I suppose I learned from that, interestingly. I was at a police station in northern Italy a few years back, and they had a reception centre there which allowed small children to go when they were victims of crime within the family. But they also had a few dog bowls there and a dog's bed, and so it was lovely, so that you could bring your dog along, you know, rather than leave them at home, which allows victims of domestic abuse more opportunity to go to a rental home with their animal. And I know this is obviously a big issue in the US as well.
Yes.
If you need to leave that situation, if you can take the pet with you, it'll be your support network. If you leave it behind, it will be used against you and you'll return. And you know what you're going to return to. And every occasion you return to, there's going to be further abuse. That a domestic abuser, if they bring an animal into the family home, is more likely to then abuse that animal. Well, of course they are, because they've done that deliberately for the survivor to build a bond with that animal, so that they can then abuse that bond.
Wow. So they bring an animal into the home with the intent of using it for coercion.
Absolutely, yeah. Making sure that when you're looking at animal laws and human laws, that you don't try and separate them out. You know, so say, for example, you want to charge somebody and take them through the court process for animal, for human abuse and violence. If they've committed animal abuse and violence, make sure that those charges or those indictments or felonies follow them through the court process, so that they are known as both an animal abuser and a human abuser. Because at some point that will cross over and you'll be able to show that, look, they are violent people. Doesn't matter the species they're violent to, they are violent. So you need to make sure that you don't try and separate those out with one agency dealing with one and the other one dealing with.
Do you see anyone in particular? You said that Greece has a more successful program in that respect. Is that kind of, is there something special that they're doing, or is it because you've been helping them with some new ideas? I was
fortunate in starting on a project with them in 2015, and it's taken a long time, and there's still a long way to go. But what's really important is the ministers seem to be understand what the issue is. Many of the police officers, senior police officers, do. The judges are on board. There's still a lot of practitioners who are not on board, who still think it's only an animal, why bother about it? But gradually culture changes. Case after case after case internationally prove this. We don't need to keep proving it as a theory. It's common sense. What we do need to do is put it into our practices and make something happen about it.
I'm over here, and on the one hand, I want to like pour everything I have into the resource bucket, you know, money and policy and for support like that. And on the other hand, it's like I want to pour everything into the mindset kind of thing. And so, do you feel like it's a chicken and the egg kind of thing? Like, can you bring the resources forward without that mindset happening first, or do you need resources to create the mind shift?
I mean, I think Desmond Tutu made a very important quote, I think, which talks about, you know, at some point we have to stop pulling people out the river. We need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. I think if you can put resources into preventing something happening, you will end up with more resources. So if you can switch the cycle, so you're not perpetually trying to deal with the problem, but you get ahead of it, then eventually things will shift and you'll get them back again. And all of a sudden you'll have all this extra resource that you'll be able to put things. So it's just about going clockwise rather than anti-clockwise all the time. Probably, I mean, it has been 10 years, yes, since then. And I was at a meeting with one of the ministers in Greece back earlier in the year, and it was interesting. He's telling me about something that I know we've been talking about for 10 years. So it's registered. The issue is registered. Now we've got to turn it into practice.
Well, let's close with this then. Tell me a little bit about, you mentioned the word vision. Tell me a little bit about the event that you have coming up. You said it's October 4th, right? It's global, it's online, there are different languages, so people can find content in a myriad of ways. I assume you'll have resources that people can get from those folks, and they've got, you know, I've been zooming around their profiles and taking a look at the materials that they have. A lot of stuff to look at, a lot of stuff to learn. if in your mind, after the event occurs, and even at the event, what is your vision in your mind? What do you see as this was a success? This is what we need to happen on this particular celebration of the day through these experts, through the audience, and through ideas and sharing. What are you hoping for? What does it look like when you're successful with this?
I mean, the first thing I would ask people to do is have a look at the World Animal Day website, worldanimalday.org. Then have a look at organisations like World Animal Justice, who are pulling this together. The fact that it's even happening, I think, I mean, every day should be World Animal Day, but it is one day to say, right, okay, let's just stop. Let's have a think about who is doing what can we learn from each other. I know we'll generate a number of issues that can be taken forward by everybody. If anybody goes through to the Nature Watch website, for example, naturewatch.org, I've worked with an ex-police officer in Canada, and we produced a 9-point plan to look at how you can help animals and people. That's on our website. So it's just about watching, having an open mind, taking that back into your community, into your country, and just thinking, could we do something a little bit better, which actually protects both animals and people? And then I think, what does success look like? I think it's that ship just changing course into, out of the waters that we're in at the moment, into a sort of a much calmer, friendlier, more compassionate, more caring society, really.
I love that. I want to live in that world,
I think we all do. I just don't quite know how to do it sometimes. It just gets a bit out of control. We all get a bit angry. We disagree with each other. We're not prepared to compromise or communicate. But if we can, if we watch what animals do, they seem to do it much better than we do. It's about understanding your community. And how do you do that if you don't talk to them about all members of their community, including dogs?
Dog friendly. It's one of the most overused and under-delivered promises in the United States. That's where Wagtown comes in. We've traveled across the states and conducted several hundred face-to-face interviews with leaders from economic development and veterinary care to tourism and animal rescue. We help to create real dog-friendly communities. Wagtown provides consulting, programs, recognition, and marketing purely for the purpose of creating dog-friendly neighborhoods across America. Partner with Wagtown to enhance awareness and recognition of your welcoming community. We can also help you improve your ranking and demonstrate your excellence. It's proven that dogs have a positive impact on our health in the battle against disease and obesity. Let's have a humane and responsible dog-friendly definition to benefit the lives of everyone at both ends of the leash. Dog-friendly environments bring safety through an increase in neighborhood activity and vigilance about maintaining a safe environment for dogs and their humans. Increased economic activity comes from customers who want to spend their dollars at dog-friendly venues. Dog-friendly towns find that their neighbors are more responsible pet owners, ranging from basic obedience to picking up after their dog. Dog-friendliness is a great attractor of vibrant talent and is gaining traction. Communities are looking for ways to get involved with increased support for animal care and rescue organizations. Wagtown helps communities deliver on authentic dog-friendly promises and is one of the best economic growth tools on the horizon. It's time to stop faking the difference and start making the difference. Contact us for an assessment of your community, and let's make the WAG happen together.